Hey movie fans, I am Gert and I have a tongue twister for you. Well, a tongue twister for myself. Aunty Entity. All right, I spit it out. Aunty Entity, a character you know, of course. Tina Turner shines in a big role in a classic movie. Mad Max 3 Beyond Thunderdome. Today we take you step by step and take a look back at this awesome classic.
Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome, often referred to as Mad Max 3, is a 1985 Australian movie set in a post-apocalyptic world. Directed by George Miller and George Ogilvy, it stars Mel Gibson and Tina Turner. The film follows the journey of a lone warrior named Mad Max, played by Mel Gibson, who is banished into the desert. It was shot in Australia and released on July 10, 1985. Terry Hayes and Miller co-wrote the screenplay. The story revolves around Max's encounters with various characters, including Tina Turner's character, Aunty Entity, who rules over Bartertown, a chaotic settlement. Other notable characters include Jedediah, played by Bruce Spence, and Master, played by Angelo Rossitto. The film received positive reviews from critics and was well received by audiences. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is the third installment in the Mad Max franchise, with a fourth film, Mad Max Fury Road, released in 2015 starring Tom Hardy as Max. Plot summary. When the movie starts, we find ourselves in a post-apocalyptic world that's basically a wasteland. In this chaos, we meet Max Rockatansky, cruising through the desert in a vehicle pulled by camels. But Jedediah and his kid rudely interrupt him by stealing the wheels. Max, not one to take such a loss lying down, decides to track down Jedediah and his crew. His journey leads him to a place called Bartertown, a trading post ruled by a tough lady named Aunty Entity. At first, Max isn't allowed in because he doesn't have anything to trade, but he quickly proves he's no pushover, catching the attention of the town's big shots. Aunty Entity sees potential in Max and offers him a deal. If he can pull off a task for her, she'll hook him up with supplies. She spills the beans about Bartertown's lifeblood, this underground place called Underworld. It's where they churn pig poop into methane, which is basically gold in this post-apocalyptic world. Now, the whole operation is run by this clever little guy named Master, who rides around on the shoulders of his hulking bodyguard, Blaster. Together, they're known as Master Blaster. But here's the kicker. Master Blaster is getting a bit too big for their britches and starting to challenge Auntie's authority. So Auntie wants Max to take out Blaster, thinking it'll make it easier to control Master and bend him to her will. It's a risky move, but Auntie's willing to roll the dice to keep her grip on power. So, Max decides to get the lowdown on Master Blaster by sneaking into the underworld. While he's there, he meets Pig Killer. Anyway, things get interesting when Master Blaster figures out that the fancy vehicle Max brought with him actually belongs to Max. Blaster isn't too happy about it and puts Max to the test by making him disarm a trap. In the process, Max accidentally sets off an alarm and learns that Blaster is super sensitive to high-pitched noises. So, up on the surface, Auntie lays down the law to Max. She tells him that in Bartertown, when there's beef, it's settled in a brutal arena called Thunderdome. The fight kicks off, and Blaster, being a giant and all, starts laying into Max. Max pulls out a whistle and blows it, sending Blaster into a world of hurt. With Blaster incapacitated, Max has the upper hand. But when he sees that Blaster isn't just some baddie but actually has an intellectual disability, Max can't bring himself to finish the job. That's when Max spills the beans about Auntie's scheme. Master, feeling betrayed, threatens to shut down the whole methane refinery. Auntie, not one to take threats lightly, decides to take matters into her own hands. With Blaster out of the picture, Auntie terrorizes Master into keeping the refinery running, securing her power once again. Max finds himself in hot water after breaking a deal, and as punishment, he's strapped to a horse and sent off into the desolate wasteland. The severity of his punishment is decided by spinning a wheel, which lands him on a journey into the wilderness. But things take a turn for the worse when the horse collapses from exhaustion, leaving Max stranded and vulnerable. Just when it seems like it's all over for him, he's rescued by a tough young girl named Savannah Nix. She brings him back to her home, an oasis called Planet Earth, where a group of kids and teenagers live. These kids are descendants of survivors from a plane crash, and they believe Max is their long-awaited hero, Captain Walker, who will fix their airplane and whisk them away to a mythical land called Tomorrowland. But Max bursts their bubble, insisting that the world they dream of no longer exists. Disheartened, Savannah and her crew decide to take matters into their own hands and head off to Bartertown to seek help. Max, realizing the dangers they'll face, intervenes and decides to keep them safe at the oasis instead of letting them venture out into the harsh world beyond. So, in the dead of night, the Separatists make a break for it, leaving Max in a tough spot. But Max, being the stand-up guy he is, agrees to track them down and bring them back. He takes a few members of the tribe along for the ride, but both groups are pretty bad for wear by the time they catch up with the escapees. With no supplies left, Max has no choice but to lead everyone back to Bartertown. Once they're back in town, they hatch a daring plan to free Master from Underworld. With the help of Pig Killer, they manage to pull off a daring escape in a souped-up truck, wreaking havoc and destruction in their wake. Aunty, not one to take things lying down, orders her forces to go after them. As they're being pursued, Max and his crew run into Jedediah and his son, who begrudgingly agrees to lend them their airplane. But with Auntie's army closing in fast, there's not much runway left for the plane to take off. Thinking fast, Max sacrifices his vehicle by crashing it, creating enough space for the plane to escape. In the chaos, Max is left injured and alone, but Auntie, impressed by his courage, decides to spare him. As she heads off to rebuild Bartertown, Max is left to nurse his wounds and contemplate his next move. So, Jedediah takes Master, Pig Killer, and the Separatists on a journey to the ruins of Sydney, where they start afresh. Meanwhile, Max is out there in the wasteland, wandering alone. But despite the solitude, Max keeps moving, perhaps in search of something or just trying to make sense of it all. Box office performance and critical response. When it hit theaters, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome had a budget bigger than its predecessors, but its box office results were just okay. In Australia, where the franchise originated, it pulled in around $4.3 million, falling short of the earnings of the first two Mad Max films. In the United States and Canada, it fared a bit better, raking in $36 million, with half of that amount going back to the studios as theatrical rentals. Internationally, it brought in a similar sum, totaling worldwide rentals of $36 million. While some critics praised the film for its inventive Thunderdome scene and strong performances from Mel Gibson and Tina Turner, others were less impressed. Some felt that the inclusion of children in the second half of the film was a misstep, drawing comparisons to the Lost Boys from Peter Pan. Additionally, there were debates among fans about whether the film struck the right tone for the Mad Max series, with some criticizing it for feeling too Hollywoodized and lighter in tone compared to its grittier predecessors. Despite the mixed reviews, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome managed to deepen the character of Mad Max while still delivering the thrilling vehicle choreography and stunts that fans loved from the earlier films. Movie review. Despite initial comparisons to its predecessors, Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome offers solid entertainment on its terms. While lighter and less violent, it still showcases Miller's craft in chase scenes and presents a unique focus on the younger characters, reminiscent of Hook in the Wasteland. Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome is a gem of post-apocalyptic cinema. It offers incredible visual design, diverse societies, and memorable characters like the Aboriginal clan reminiscent of Peter Pan's Lost Boys. With car chases, a unique death duel sequence, and stellar performances by Tina Turner and Mel Gibson, it's a standout film deserving of revisiting. So that's all for today's video. If you like it, click the like and bell buttons. We'll have another video for you soon. Take care until then.